Welcome to Crypto Flywheel, podcast where we spin up strategies to turn your digital efforts into unstoppable momentum. Now, let's get that flywheel turning. Take it away, Professor.
Digital X. We at the Crypto Flywheel would be remiss if we do not talk about what's happening geopolitically, right? Why this is happening within the Middle East, why the U.S. is involved in this new war recently after Venezuela. We talked about Venezuela for a little bit, but then now this is happening in the Middle East, right? So the Persian Gulf, if you will. So this is more like when geopolitical tensions rise in the Middle East, the first markets that react is what? Energy, right? So we have, at the Crypto Flywheel, we're going to talk a little bit about the geopolitical narrative as well as the secondary market. The second market that quietly begins moving is money, right? The confrontation that's happening right now between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the State of Israel is not simply a regional military dispute. That's what we need our listeners to understand. It sits at the center of global energy corridors that feed Europe, Asia, and the broader industrial world. Any escalation that threatens oil transport through the Strait of Hormuz or destabilizes production across the regions sends immediate shockwaves through global commodity pricing. And energy markets move first and capital flows move next. So keep that in mind. And that what's happening out there, whatever the spin is on it from mainstream media, we need to comprehend that where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So what's this fire? What I said was the second market that begins to move. And right now we talk about it at the Crypto Flywheel all the time. It's about the new financial system. They're rolling it in. They're laying out the architectural framework, and our listeners are going to be ahead of the game. And if they know how to position themselves, and we at the Crypto Flywheel intend to do that. So what are your thoughts about this, Professor X? I mean, Digital X.
Well, it's sad to see so many lives being lost. Sad to see that a lot of these individuals that sign up to fight for their country, in any country, basically the U.S., maybe Israel, Iran, then you got all these innocent lives that are lost as well due to one selfish agenda. And that agenda is very destructive, right? So it's all over this financial system. Who's gonna be the global international currency? The U.S. dollar.
I agree.
U.S. dollar is actually losing a lot of value internationally. And the fight is to maintain that global dominance. That's why they attacked Iran. They attacked Iran in order to weaken China, because they see China as one of the largest threats to them. So that's what I see.
Well, you're absolutely that's absolutely correct. And my understanding of my studies since we've been studying history, right? We're talking about back when, what was it? The Dutch East India Company, right? Then the British East India Company. And the Spain in between. I think before that was the Spanish Inquisition, right? Spain was the biggest currency that was out there for a couple of hundred years. Then it was the Dutch currency. Then it became the British currency. Now we are the biggest, we meaning the U.S. has the most dominant currency, especially after Nixon took us off of the gold standard, right? Yeah. So, I mean, what became known as the petrodollar, right? Yeah. Because currency that was used for trade in energy or oil was the dollar. So now when you have nations, like you said, like China and let me say that again, BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, they're getting together trying to de-dollarize and take off the petrodollar, right? What's happening? So they needed to create that, I call it psychological operation, psyops and false flags, right? So these are, in my estimation, my understanding, are false flags, a big one at that, where lives are in stake. But at the end of the day, it's according to them, it's for the greater good. I beg to differ, But that's what I think is happening right now, and why these unnecessary war where our men and women are in jeopardy and innocent lives are in jeopardy, and countries that have no business or never wanted to be involved in such things. All of this is affecting every single people of every nation. But whether they want it, they like it or not, this is happening right now. And it's very difficult because the nation that they're going against has nothing to lose, and they're not looking to win. They're going to go down with, they're not going to succumb to any bully, is what I'm gathering from what has been going on in this geopolitical narrative.
Yeah, this war has basically destabilized this entire Middle East. When I say that, what I mean is there's a lot of families that are affected by the disruption in the region. You're not only disrupting Arabs, Jews, vacationers, you're actually disrupting real livelihood from people that flown over to the Middle East for employment from South Asia, Southeast Asia,
Europe,
Philippines, Vietnam, India, Sri Lanka, you name it. These are impoverished countries where they have people that go to the Middle East for employment so they can send money back to their family. Now that whole thing is disrupted. I don't know for how long, but it can be for years, right? With what's happening.
I agree. I mean, this is crazy. You're absolutely right, Digital X. I mean, I wanted to just talk about something that that you actually shared with me recently. It was about a prominent UAE billionaire. His name was, I think, Khalaf Ahmed Al Habtoor. He published an open letter to the POTUS.
Well, why don't you read that letter out to our audience so they can...
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. So he basically said, and I quote, "Who gave you the authority to drag our region into a war with Iran? Who gave you permission to turn our region into a battlefield?" Al Habtoor's major figure, he's a major figure. He's a billionaire. He's a former diplomat, outspoken political voice in the Gulf. When he talks, UAE leaderships listen. His questions are simple. It was this: was this your decision or Netanyahu's pressure? Did you calculate collateral damage before firing? You placed GCC countries at the heart of danger they didn't choose. Your Board of Peace initiatives were funded by Gulf states. Now we're getting attacked. Where did that money go? You promised no wars. You conducted operations in 7 countries: Somalia, Iraq, Yemen, Nigeria, Syria, Iran, Venezuela. And 58 airstrikes in your first year back, which equals Biden's entire term, which you criticized. War costs $40 to $65 billion for operations, possibly $210 billion total. Your approval ratings down 9% in 400 days. Americans were promised peace. They're getting war funded by their taxes. The sharpest line here is, quote, "Before the ink has dried on your Board of Peace initiative, we find ourselves facing military escalations that endangers the entire region. So where did those initiatives go?" End quote. So that's essentially what he said. And then there's a little bit. So Al Habtoor is not some random critic here, okay? So he's establishment connected with UAE elites, start publicly questioning Trump's decision making that America's closest Arab allies saying we didn't sign up for this. The letter ends by saying true leadership, and I quote, "True leadership is not measured by the war decisions, but by wisdom, respect for others, and pushing toward achieving peace." So essentially, that's what we voted for, Digital X.
Yeah,
we voted for peace.
I feel like it's a wasted vote for me.
Yeah, I mean, like, I agree. I mean, I gave him the benefit of the doubt, right? Yeah, no, what I was saying here, Digital X, is I gave him the benefit of the doubt up until Iran happened. So there's been so much, chatter about, hey, he's not doing what he said he was, he's losing his base, all that good stuff and whatnot. But, that was all noise to me until the Iran invasion happened, because that did not need to happen. He was also warned by which was deplatformed by this guy named Scott. I forgot his name, man. But he's a prominent guy. He was deplatformed because he warned that it would be a very long war if we were to engage with Iran, on behalf of Israel.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, all we can do is just pray for the families and the individuals that are, participating.
I agree. Yeah, because this is unnecessary, in my opinion, my humble opinion. I think this is necessary. I think this is a lot of smoke, to be honest with you. Again, at the cost of lives, though. But a lot of smoke for the new transition into the new financial system, and they don't want just to give away all the shield. They're creating distractions, deviating attention to these false flags and psyops. That's what I think. But for our listeners, we had to talk about it a little bit, because if we didn't, we're not, doing our listeners any justice either. So we want you to understand that. Position yourselves. Again, it could tie back to the digital assets, right? Look into it, do your due diligence, ask us questions, make comments. We are doing this out of passion, not about anything else. We just like talking about stuff, and we just thought we'd share it with you guys. That's all I got there, Digital X.
All right, Professor, go ahead and flywheel out of here.
Well, you guys have a great weekend. We want to ask that you do engage with us so that we can talk about it in subsequent episodes. So with that, this episode of the Crypto Flywheel is signing off. Thank you.
Thank you.